Hi, I'm Priya. I'm a big fan of the Owl House, and I will be doing commentary over my process drawing this Lumity fan art and, well, ramble a bit about the Owl House. A small disclaimer, I started drawing this way back when Season 2 Episode 2 aired, and only finished it recently because I'm a huge procrastinator, and that's why Amity still has her old hairstyle in the speed paint. I did make a pigmenty version though, so please don't come for me. Also, flash warning in some parts of the video. It's very minor, but I'd like to give that warning just in case. Sadly, I didn't capture much of the sketching process. I used the time-lapse feature in Clip Studio Paint to record this, and in hindsight, I think I should have used a screen capture software like OBS or QuickTime instead. But oh well, that's a note for future me, I guess. I decided to experiment by using a brush that I had never used before for line art. Sadly, I ended up scrapping it and starting over because I didn't like how it looked in the end, but decided against cutting out this part from the video because that's the joy of experimenting. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and when it doesn't, that's okay, at least I tried. I'm planning on experimenting with that brush more because I know some artists, including my own friend, who could really pull off that style of line art with that style of brush, if that makes sense. And I love how they all look. So one day, hopefully, I'll conquer that brush. One day. After starting over, I think I ended up spending all hours on the line art. I like to use line art as a way to make the end piece look a little less stiff. I don't know if I could explain it very well, but because my sketches are super messy and stiff, I like to take my time on cleaning it up. It's a little ironic since I hate doing line art, but also tend to get very annoyed when my clean sketch doesn't look clean or dynamic or as good as I want it to. So my cleanup sketch stage just ended up being line art, if that makes sense. If you use Clip Studio Paint, then you've probably heard of this lasso tool. This tool lets you color your drawing by simply selecting the parts you'd like to fill in based on your line art, or rather whatever layer it is you set as reference layer. What I didn't know about this tool is that it doesn't really work well with a specific brush that I usually use for line art because it's too translucent, so I usually end up only using it to block in the area that I want to color. Through the Looking Glass Ruins aired at the time I finished doing the line art for this, and I debated on starting over again to change Amity's hair, but decided to make two versions instead. Because I don't want anything to look different, I winded up copying everything and editing Amity's hair. Then I alternate between coloring and shading the pink MIDI version and the mint MIDI version. So all that effort became redundant because in the end I ended up only modifying Amity's hair over the already rendered mint MIDI version. Because I'm lazy. And this is where I ramble. Watching back the time-lapse, the rendering stage looks a little boring to me, so I'm going to fill this void of boringness by fangirling over the Owl House. I followed the show creator Dana Terrace long before the Owl House existed. I found out about her through one of Alex Hirsch's charity streams, and I immediately fell in love with their art. Back then, I think she was an artist on DuckTales 2017. A lot of Dana's personal works, particularly the ones that she posts on social media, are a mix of fantasy and horror. She draws a lot of monsters, body horror, and gore, so warning there, I guess. All of which that I like. She also has, in my humble opinion, a very nice semi-realistic art style that leans a bit more towards cartoon, but blends in nicely. I love how she simplifies anatomy and how dynamic a lot of her drawings are. She immediately became one of my biggest art inspirations. So when she announced that she got her show pitch greenlit to Disney, I became incredibly excited. I love her art and was really hyped to see what she's working on. When she finally announced the Owl House, I became even more excited. I had a feeling I was going to love the show, and I was right. When the show first aired, I immediately fell in love with the main cast, and fell more and more in love as it goes on. I love the characters, the writing, the story, the world, basically everything. And of course, we can't talk about the Owl House without bringing up the representation. As a bisexual little nerd myself, I was so happy when I found out that Luz is bi and that Amity is a lesbian. When I thought I could relate to Luz more, I did. And as of recording this too, I was so happy to see a canon non-binary character in a Disney show. I seriously love Rain Whispers, and if they and Ida don't get married by the end of the series, I will flip. And with that, of course, I was sad when I heard about the news regarding Season 3. If you haven't heard, Season 3 is cut short and will only consist of a few specials that will wrap up the whole show, as far as I can remember. I don't want to jump to any conclusions about the reason Disney decided on this, but as both a fan and an aspiring animator, this news made me have mixed feelings. On one hand, I do sense that the whole story will wrap up soon, so the show ending on the third season isn't surprising to me. But I also think that a few specials could really make the ending feel rushed. I have my own personal speculations about why this happened and thoughts as an aspiring animator, but I don't want to annoy you any longer. The best and only thing that us fans can do is support the show while we can. Things start and end. Let's just hope the Owl House ends as spectacularly as Luz and Amity's Grom Dance. Hello, Editing Priya here. Yes, I'm actually just hooting and wig. Episode 8 aired while I was editing this, and I just finished watching it, and my emotions.
My emotions! My emotions!
There's just so many things that I want to scream about right now, but my brain is like jumping from place to place. But just Lumity's canon. Lumity's canon. And I love them so much. If I sound like I'm crying, trust me, I'm not. I'm just a little so excited. I've never been this excited for a ship before. I'm not an avid shipper. I've never been an avid shipper, but I guess Lumity's just an exception. I just love them so much. Anyways, breakout session over. Editing Priya out. I'm going to sit in the corner of my apartment and like scream for a bit. Please enjoy the rest of the video. Back to my process. After rendering, I came across a bit of a problem with background and the overall layout of the drawing. I intended this to be a casual fan art and didn't really think things through. Instead of staying frustrated, I decided to take a break and scour the internet for inspiration. I ended up on my friend's art account at Fishcakes, go check out their art, and finally got the idea to make the layout have a retro Y2K magazine cover vibe. Fishcakes, if you're watching this by any chance, sorry for name dropping you, buddy, I love you. I downloaded a couple of transparent PNGs of stickers, drew some shapes in another file, and messed around with them until I'm satisfied with how everything looks as a whole. And with that, here are the final pieces. I'm personally not that familiar with Y2K aesthetics, but I think I did a pretty good job. I'm happy with how these turn out at least. If you're still here somehow, thank you so much for watching. This is the first video I've made in years, and a very impulsive project at that. And also the first where I do voiceover, and so huge apologies for jumping all over the place with the topic. Again, thank you for watching.
Take a look, it's in a book, Reading Rainbow. Reading Rainbow.